A 23-year-old woman in Bengaluru has died with her toddler in her arms. The mother, Soundarya, was walking on the streets with her 9-month-old baby, Suviksha. We'll try to put out their photograph on our screens if we can. When she stepped on a live wire and was electrocuted. Both the mother and daughter were charred to death. Now her husband could not do much to save them because he too suffered a shock. This is news from India's IT capital, India's so-called Silicon Valley. The Bangalore Electricity Supply Company Limited, also known as Bescom, is the state-owned company which is responsible for this tragedy. Bescom has suspended 5 officials from the power supply department. They are Assistant Executive Engineer Subramanya T, Assistant Engineer Chetan S, Junior Engineer Rajanna, Junior Powerman Manjunath Revanna and Lineman Basavaraju for negligence, and they've promised a detailed investigation. The City Electricity Board has also further issued a show-cause notice to Lokesh Babu, who is the Superintendent Engineer of the East Circle, and Sri Ramu, Executive Engineer of the Whitefield Division. They've been asked to submit their responses to the notices that have been served to them within 3 days. But I want to ask a simple question. What about the following names? Okay, let's start that from the beginning if we can. What about IAS Gaurav Gupta, Director of Bescom? What about IAS Mahantesh Bilagi, Managing Director of Bescom? What about IAS Dr. Jaffer PC, Director of Bescom? What about IAS Pankaj Kumar Pandey, Director of Bescom? What about IRS Darshan J, CFO and Director of Finance, Bescom? What about them? Who's questioning them? Who's serving them a show-cause notice? Who's seeking any responsibility and accountability from these IAS officers who believe that they can wash off their responsibilities by what? Suspending who? Your assistant executive engineers, junior engineer, lineman, powerman. So suspend the lowest common denominators while the people at the top continue to go on. I don't think that's okay anymore in India. I think we definitely need to have a larger conversation about the sheer lack of accountability. Where does this apathy towards human life even come from? Does it come from the fact that you, once you become an officer of the government, an officer of the state, are an untouchable person? We take this conversation forward with Advocate G.V. Rao. I also have with me Advocate K.V. Dhananjay and Revati Ashok, CEO of BPAC. Revati Ashok, let me begin with you. When was the last time, Revati Ashok, that you heard in Bangalore or in Karnataka, a senior official was actually removed from his position because of a civic infrastructural related tragedy?
Yeah, it's a very, very unfortunate event that has taken place. It's tragic. As we are just 3 days ago, I was walking on a footpath in Indiranagar with my 7-year-old grandchildren. Walk was about 500 meters of walk, and the number of cables that were lying on the footpath were unbelievable. They were all over the footpath, and I told them to jump across and not go walk on top of the cables. At that moment, I didn't realize, only when I heard this 2 days later, I realized what tragedy could have been averted. You know, this is unbelievable. This could have happened to any of us walking on the footpath. And every life counts. The right to life is a very important thing. And we have an active mobility bill which puts the citizen at the center of mobility, which says that having the right footpath, having the right to ensure that you can take action against somebody because they didn't do their jobs well. It's not just cables. It is people have fallen into manholes. People have died on the road because of potholes. People have died because there was poor lighting and they couldn't see the divider. So many things, or a boulder which was kept on the right in the middle of the road. So I think this kind of urban apathy that our government is showing is unbelievable, and we must take strict action. And
but Revati Ashok, do you feel, are you in any way convinced that the administration, current, previous, next, are they capable of dealing with the total civic mess that is Bangalore today?
I think they are capable, but nobody is focused. They are just busy doing other things. I don't doubt the capability. We have very good officers. I think they are just not serious enough, and nobody really looks at the life of a citizen and looks at the provision of services as providing opportunity to a citizen to live peacefully with a decent quality of life. Unless you are able to guarantee that as the state, we are paying taxes. And we would expect that decent quality of life.
And you know, Revati Krishnan, that's Revati Ashok, pardon me there, that's where it becomes a problem, right? Because we end up saying that, okay, we expect this. And I just want to point it out. And I feel like there has to be a change in our mindset as people, yes, who are paying taxes. Okay, it's from our money that everybody, all the people sitting in their fancy homes, officers, netas and all, they're living basically on salaries that are coming out of money that you and I, that people like you and I are paying. So the one thing maybe that I can request people that are watching is, let's move away from saying that we expect this. Let's just say that it's our demand. We demand it. There can be, because with expectation, you still leave a little bit of gray room there. Okay, it's just an expectation. Let's fall short on it. You do not fall short on a demand, hopefully. I'm going to come back to you, Revati Ashok. Let me go to Advocate G.V. Rao as well. Advocate Rao, I'm just going to read out this very unfortunate list from this year itself. 18th August, a 60-year-old woman called Sumangla lost her life in wanting to attempt to avoid a pothole. 23rd May 2023, 22-year-old Bhanu Rekha dies because the KR Circle underpass is completely flooded. 10th January 2023, 28-year-old Tejaswini and her 2-year-old son Vehan are killed because a metro pillar has collapsed on them. 6th February 2021, a 19-year-old medical student Tashwik Bushra dies while trying to avoid potholes. G.V. Rao, my simple question to you is, what really honestly happens to the people in India who are responsible for this civic apathy?
You see, actually they have to knock at the doors of the court, because you see there is no mechanism which the, either the Electricity Act or the rules or guidelines provide for compensation. So the citizens, poor citizens who suffer these kind of accidents and injuries in the hands of the public authorities, they are left completely helpless, knocking at the doors of the court, and which are taking forever to provide justice and to provide them compensation to begin with. I mean, the loss of life can hardly be compensated at any point of time. So therefore, the courts have their own procedures, and they take their own time because of the system that we have kept. And we try to do our best to whatever we can do in a limited sphere. We keep knocking, we persuade, we do whatever else that is in our power. But at the end of the day, it is the helpless client or the sufferer or their families that are, left to fend for themselves after accidents of such nature by the or due to the negligence, due to the complete negligence of the public authorities. Interestingly, I live in Delhi. I'm a senior counsel, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, but we have a home in Bangalore. Right outside my house, this is a personal, this thing interesting, it just happened that I'm invited here, I'm often invited, I'm not giving you an example. Right outside my house, there's a huge transformer, which is practically touching and away by just a few inches of a bus shelter. And the bus shelter, it can anytime those wires that are hanging from these very, very awkward looking transformers can touch that bus shelter, and then anything tragic can happen. Now the civic authorities were informed that that bus shelter is wrongly placed there and is right next to a huge transformer from where electricity wires are coming. And the Bangalore authorities, neither the Bescom nor the traffic department, none of them are taking any interest. Email after email, letter. Now, being a lawyer myself, I would hate to go into the courts for a personal matter. But then, it would take forever as it were. But over the last 1 year, nothing has happened and nobody cares. The photographs have been sent to the highest authorities there, including the chairman of the BBMP. But I am surprised at the attitude of the Bangalore's public civic authorities, that they just throw everything, every caution to wind and just...
Advocate, what are they busy doing? Because at the end of the day, all of us are doing jobs, right? I come here every day, I do my job and I go back. Their job is to literally fix this. So what are they doing every day?
Well, I think they're mired in a whole web of they have contractors. Now they try to execute public works through private contractors. Now, the moment you try to do anything through private contractors, of course, there is no other way, because you can't have an entire public a government department doing it by itself. Now, the private authorities, the private contractors have payment issues. They have some other issues. So they are daily mired in a local, some kind of execution issues. Then the engineers will come. They are at several places. Sometimes shortfall of equipment. Wires, Madam Revati is right, in Indira Nagar is where my place is also. Wires lying everywhere. It is a complete chaos. It's a nightmare for all citizens in the wonderful city of Bangalore, which happens to be the IT capital. But I think the courts must come down heavily, because the state, you see, what we need really is, we need a legislation where the state authorities are made liable to do their act, not only suspension, etc., right from top to bottom, investigations, etc.
Are they, GV Rao, is the state, can't the state be sued right now?
It can be, but that takes, see, I will tell you a case of Karnataka and Madras High Court, which have taken 10 years. Right. 10 years of litigation practically every day. When somebody is a small child and wife is dead, they are not able to afford, living a decent life. How can they, approach courts of law and find and be there forever, trying to litigate to get some kind of compensation for the loss of it? It's a terrible situation, and this can't be. And then courts must come down heavily. The first thing that must happen, when unnatural loss of life or maiming or injury is to register an FIR. The court must come down and say there is an unnatural death, somebody has been maimed, somebody has lost a limb, somebody has happened. Register an FIR, because it's a criminal negligence. And that is done, and the police are set to the criminal system is set into motion to investigate how such a thing has happened, and a day-to-day investigation is only when things will improve. And because nobody looks at it that way. It's an unnatural death. Why isn't an FIR been registered about the child and the lady who has been electrocuted and charred to death? It's a at the end of the day, it's a criminal negligence. Now that's where the way you look at it is how it improves and how serious people are. Even the officials at the top. You're right. I mean, why only officials at the bottom? But the officials at the top also must have, the ability to really, and also the commitment to ensure they must be, brought to book. They must be said that this is under your nose. Now if there's an investigation, what is your role? Did you look at how this was going? Did you
Yes.
get an idea of what was happening? Unless you bring the top persons and make them responsible, it's difficult to manage such things. And this kind of apathy, it can happen to anybody. Madam was right. It could have happened to me. I have been crossing cables in Indiranagar myself. I'm very familiar with what is the kind of construction and the kind of time that they take forever. It's taken almost 1 year plus to lay the cables. And in addition to my personal issue of something touching the bus shelter over there, you can't, what do? You can do, even if I, as a senior counsel here in Supreme Court, go and file a petition in the courts there, it will take forever for me to get relief from them. And personal allegations will be made. He's a lawyer and is trying to approach the court. All kinds of things happen. And there's irresponsibility right across.
Absolutely.
And this kind of thing can't stop. We have to stop all of this.
Advocate KV Dhananjay, what do you feel then needs to be done? Is there some sort of a law that can be brought about? Is there some sort of a rule book that can be brought about? Because, talking very simply, maybe let's consider the example of a United States of America, where if you were to, say, tomorrow slip on a sidewalk, you can actually go and sue the company that has made that sidewalk. And we do read in the news the sort of compensation and the sort of cases that take place in the US. Do you feel that somewhere maybe that does help in keeping people accountable when there is some fear that, okay, maybe none of these people will ever go behind bars? Ideally, they should. But at least if there is a fear that, okay, I could be tomorrow sued for 100 crores, 200 crores, the state could be sued for that kind of money because of the loss of life. You can never put an amount to anybody losing their life. Do you think something of that sort could possibly work?
Well, whatever happens in the US, we already have laws that permit a similar outcome. The family of the victims here, their members, they could always sue the officers concerned on the ground of negligence and demand a very large sum of money and even recover it in theory. So having more laws, I think in India is ruled out because we have too many laws in India already. I think the problem is a much, much broader one. And I think someone at this juncture will have to go out of their way. Like, for instance, I was paying attention to the dialogue until now, and then you were saying that you've been doing your job and you expect similarly that others will also do their jobs. Now, the fact of the matter is the others are not doing their jobs, and therefore, I think the responsibility on the media might slightly increase now. Something like, okay, this happened yesterday or maybe day before yesterday, and then we talk about it, and obviously, the media is going to pick up something else tomorrow because there's going to be a tragedy like this every day in this country, somewhere or the other. Bangalore, I think, only has a nominal role, and it's impossible in this country to say that, okay, fine, this particular territory, this particular area is infested with this kind of negligence. It's not so. India, by and large, witnesses events like this day in and day out. Now, I might seem somewhat insensitive that I'm talking about, death in this manner. So I will, in fact, offer this rider, which is my heart goes out to the family members of the victims, and I cannot even imagine what kind of suffering they're going through right now. So having said that, what I would like to offer is this. We've been saying that courts might be the savior, but then in Bangalore, the municipal elections have not happened. I mean, the corporation elections have not happened for quite some time. I'm not even suggesting that if only we had an elected representative, like say a corporator, this could have been avoided. I'm not saying so. All I'm saying is that if we do not know what actually works. So we have to assume that maybe if we could have an election to the corporation, perhaps there would be a corporator who might have some fear of the residents going over to his house and taking him to task. And maybe, he could exercise 1% more vigilance and something like that. So why has Bangalore not seen municipal elections or corporation elections over the last 4 years? Now
But
you will have
Advocate
to
Dhananjay, sorry to interrupt you there, but why let the IAS officers and other administrative officers, why let them go scot-free? Because they are the directors, managing directors, CFOs, CEOs of Bescom.
No, I mean, don't let anybody go scot-free. Please imprison them and do everything. You could roast them, in fire and do whatever. I absolutely have no qualms about it. All I'm saying is that we might also have to look at the other aspects here. Why has Bangalore not seen a corporation election over the last 4 years? You see, at some level, I think the courts too will have to take a blame. What is the the Honorable High Court of Karnataka doing? Now,
Honorable High Court of Karnataka is always busy figuring out which MLA belongs to which party. That's what we're doing in Karnataka all the time.
The fact of the matter is the High Court of Karnataka, the Chief Justice bench would have this authority to take suo motu cognizance of events like this, events that send a chill into the heart and minds of people, because an event like this is something that could in fact scare anyone. Anybody could have been that victim. It doesn't have to be that woman and that child, infant. It could have been you, it could have been me, and events like this really disturb all of us. So the Chief Justice of the Honorable High Court of Karnataka could take suo motu cognizance of this and monitor it, and when something like that happens, there's some good comes out of it. And also there are these cases before the High Court and also before the Supreme Court, which in fact have held up the elections, and it's important for the courts to, wake up, and then courts should not take it literally that we go to the courts and call lords and lordships and all that. They're just human beings. They have failures too. It's important that everybody recognize what kind of failures in fact could be attributed to them by the society, and then, do whatever bit they can. Courts are not doing enough. And, I'm sure FIR has been lodged, and please arrest as many people as possible. And in this country, while eventually no one could get convicted, please don't give them bail for some length of time, because that only seems to be the lesson.
No, to be honest, Advocate, yes, exactly. And you're right about that, because the people involved in this matter, as far as the last reports were concerned, or in another case, I don't want to mix up my facts, I think it was in the case where the metro pillar had fallen, the people who were in fact accused in the matter, they immediately got bail.
That's unfortunate, and therefore I think that is how, we need to slightly change our approach. And my request personally to media houses that in fact might have some resources is, please follow up on a case. In Bangalore alone, over the last 1 year, there have been, I think, 7 or 8 such ghastly incidents. And please start looking into what in fact happened in each one of those cases. I'm very sure the paper trail stops somewhere. Some MLA calls up the police officer and says that, look, okay, these people have come to me, these people are my constituents or whatever, don't go further, and the police stops. So we don't really, we need somebody to expose all of that. And that's the only way that we can prevent the next incident. This incident is, it has happened, it's over. I doubt if the victims in this case, apparently they come from a poor background. I doubt if the victims even have the resources to go to a court and fight a case. And the other aspect I would like to point out is our civil society, we've got to strengthen it. See what is happening. The civil society groups are being hounded out across the country. Now that should not happen, because civil society groups are the ones that will in fact lead the charge against corruption. You need more of them. And if the charge is that they don't maintain accounts and so on and so forth, look at the accounts of our political parties, which goes before the Election Commission. You will laugh at those accounts. Our civil society groups might be more transparent than our political parties, but yet we simply, I think courts also have to recognize this. So very often civil society groups go before the courts and say that, look, they're being hounded out because of their anti-corruption work or because of this or that, and we don't see courts really being sensitive towards that. What happens if you shut down, if you close more civil society groups, is you will see events like this happen and nobody is there to pursue it with diligence.
Yes.
That's because the victims here, but I don't think the victims in fact can even, pay for their hospital and medical expenses. I mean,
the victims probably don't even know at this point what to do, and maybe therefore having some sort of a mechanism where, yes, currently you lodge an FIR, bringing back Advocate G.V. Rao. I'm just going to have to wrap up this conversation, but Advocate Rao, in the FIR, I'm sure the people that I've mentioned right now, your assistant executive engineers and your junior engineers and your powermen and your lineman, all of them I'm sure have been mentioned in the FIR. The FIR would possibly be against these people, but I'm not too sure if there is anybody higher up whose name would actually be mentioned in the FIR?
You see, I mean, I don't want to sensationalize. I don't want to sensationalize the issue at this point here, like to show that I mean, let's pull the dam down, etc. But the real point here is what the police does in any case, for instance, is it sort of gets some kind of a clue very quickly as to who is the person responsible or what could have gone wrong. I mean, sometimes FIRs are immediately registered the moment death occurs, or during the investigation they can add names. You see, but you see what happens is government is always there to protect itself. It's always there to protect itself because it is a system which is under their control. So therefore, you can't find the higher ups. They don't want their name to be sullied and soiled, etc. But it's only when things come before a court. It is when the court looks at it and sees that there is a higher authority which has failed to do its job, that has to be made accountable to what has happened. It is only then that thing happens. But at prima facie, you will find it that it's only the people on the ground and the lowest level who are made responsible for that. No doubt, I mean, the higher up should be mentioned. There should be the investigating officer should take it into account if necessary, right, and mention it in the FIR. No doubt about that. But above all, it's new legislation that has been required, and failing that, it is the court that has to come down and create law by what we have is law by precedent. If there is a judgment, right, which is there, which gives out all the guidelines as to how such compensations have to be, how such matters have to be dealt with, and strongly so give time frames, I think that also could give a good impetus for the state governments to behave themselves, and also to legislate and create guidelines, and even the departmental guidelines, etc., to deal with such matters.
Absolutely, I've completely run out of time.
Yes,
yes, really, I'm running out of time. Yes, 30 seconds, ma'am.
30 seconds. What Mr. Rao said, Dr. Rao said was absolutely correct. We need legislation. There is an active mobility bill which seeks to take care of issues such as this, precisely with this motive that there are various government agencies that are supposed to do certain things, and because of their negligence, people lose their lives, people lose their limbs. The active mobility bill has actually been prepared by DULT. It has gone through multiple consultation papers. All that is required now is for it to be taken to the cabinet. It requires the cabinet approval, and then it has to be taken up as the assembly session. So I think these are issues that government has to take up very seriously.
Absolutely.
Then it will provide a framework for people to immediately seek recourse. I'm not saying loss of life, seeking recourse for loss of life will make up for the loss of life. But at least there will be fear.
But yes, and I've understood your point, and hopefully we'll maybe through our medium also try to put these points across, consolidate them to come up with some sort of a plan of action, because clearly this can't keep going on.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.